What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for a UFC fight night happening in Greenville, South Carolina. And I'm also going to cover a couple of the Bellator fights as well as the bare-knuckle boxing fight between Artem Lobov and Paulie Malignaggi. But let's start with the UFC, then go Bellator, then go bare-knuckle boxing. So, the UFC card, I'm not going to lie, doesn't look strong at all. I mean, if you look at big names or even high-ranked fighters, this is one of the most lacking cards in recent memory. And the falling out of John Lineker really hurt this card because that was one of the biggest fights of this weekend, him and Rob Font. But these cards always seem to deliver, so definitely tune in for this one. But we're just going to cover the main event for this one. Renato Moicano versus the Korean zombie, Chan Sung-jung. Two fighters with somewhat fan-friendly styles, very well-rounded, and especially dangerous on the ground from both of them, and two fighters we use their nicknames to identify them as. Renato Moicano is going to be the longer fighter. He has a laser-like jab. You saw that in the Cub Swanson fight, and he used it excellently against Brian Ortega. His submission game is also extremely threatening. His guillotine chokes, and especially his rear naked choke, are something everybody in this division should be alerted from. Even Korean Zombie, who is extremely crafty on the ground himself. Renato Moicano is a lot more of a precise striker, whereas Korean Zombie is a lot more wild and breaking through the opponent's walls for that opening. Moicano throws a lot of leg kicks, which Korean Zombie does not check that well. It can really disrupt his forward momentum game. But Moicano does seem to leave himself open many times when he's attacking. When he's throwing that jab or coming in for some strike, throwing that 1-2 left high kick, he does leave his chin exposed. And Korean Zombie has made a career of catching opponents when they leave themselves a little bit too open. Such as Dennis Bermuda's fight, even a little bit of the Mark Hominick fight. He has devastating knockout power. And he can be a bit unpredictable, a bit unorthodox with his striking, and especially with his positioning to throw strikes. Even against Yair Rodriguez, catching him off guard in many sequences is something you gotta tip your hat to. But one thing that Korean Zombie does that can give Renato Moicano problems is when he is able to press forward when they're both in a neutral position. Renato Moicano seems to not do as well backing up that way, right? When he's getting heavily pressured, which is something Korean Zombie will do, Renato Moicano could potentially, again, leave himself open there, right? Moicano does very well when both fighters are right in front of each other, no one's moving any which way, and they're just going tit for tat with each other. And that is not something Korean Zombie likes to do. He did it against Jose Aldo for some reason, but in most of his fights, he's the one pressing forward. And when he presses forward, it's not predictable at all. He's pressing forward on you when you least expect it. That goes to my prediction. I'm going to go with Korean Zombie. Renato Moicano does not do well with pressure. You saw it even in the Jeremy Stephens fight, which he won. Moicano only had a couple answers for that. Constantly scaling the cage in one direction, which is something Korean Zombie has fought up against many times throughout his career. Even in his last fight with Yair Rodriguez, who is faster and has more fluid footwork than Renato Moicano. And the other answer he had to it was whenever a strike got thrown, he was able to block it or, just cover up on them. He would return with a leg kick and then exit away again. That was pretty much all he was doing, and he was timing takedowns on Jeremy Stephens. When you look at many other fights, such as even the Jose Aldo fight, whenever Aldo was pressing forward, he had a little bit harder time getting the rhythm down and finding his targets. Korean Zombie is way more unpredictable than these fighters when it comes to pressure and when he's exploding. Like I said, him fighting Yair Rodriguez, even though he lost at the end there, he was winning the fight and he was getting the better of a faster, more crafty, more dangerous striker with more fluid movement. And they were also going at each other back and forth with a bunch of jabs, and Korean Zombie had the opportunity to get the experience of fighting someone the same size as Moicano with a very similar skill set, adding on a little bit more flair and finesse to it. So I'm going to go with Korean Zombie. I'm going to go by a third round TKO. I think eventually Moicano throwing a lot of jabs to back away Korean Zombie and then throwing a lot of leg kicks to disrupt him so he can get that outside distance. I believe Korean Zombie is going to be able to slip the jabs like he did to Dennis Bermudez to knock him out. And he's going to be able to go over the top on those leg kicks like he did to Yair Rodriguez. And he has fought Jose Aldo, who is a lot more devastating with his leg kicks. He was preparing for that fight too. And here are my predictions for the rest of the UFC card. I mean, there are some okay fights on this, such as Brian Barberena versus Randy Brown. Should be pretty fun. Kevin Holland versus Alessio Di Chirico. That's one of the better fights on the entire card. Dan Ige versus Kevin Aguilar, I would say, is the second best fight on the entire card. I mean, those are two great prospects for the featherweight division. Matt Wyman is back. If you guys don't remember, back in the old days, Matt Wyman was on The Ultimate Fighter. I forgot which season. And he hasn't fought since 2014. And his last fights have been wins. I don't know why he took 5 years off. But he's coming up against Luis Pena, who is as modern as you can get. So it's the old school fighter versus the modernized fighter. And that in itself makes it super exciting. And now let's look at the betting odds to see if there's anything interesting here. So Brian Barberena being that much of a favorite, I do expect him to win, but I believe it's a much closer fight. Andrea Lee is actually that big of a favorite. I think because of her name and she's more in the headlines. Montana De La Rosa is definitely better with submissions, definitely more dangerous on the ground, and that's where Andrea Lee loves to take the fight. This could be a fight where she's going to be threatened at all times on the ground, where she decides to keep it standing, and that's where it's going to be a lot more interesting. I also think Montana De La Rosa has been progressing a lot better than Andrea Lee has. Kevin Holland is actually a favorite over Alessio Di Chirico, even though Alessio has been doing a lot better as of late. And the rest of the fights I pretty much agree with. So let's look at the Bellator fights here. First, we're going to go over Paul Daley versus Eric Silva. And right from the names, you know how this fight's going to go. Someone's getting knocked out. Two guys are going to explode in every opportunity they can. And there probably won't even be a jab in the fight. But that's usually how Eric Silva used to fight. Before you saw. And Eric Silva can make this a lot more crafty, a lot more technical than we think it's going to be. You know, Eric Silva is definitely better on the ground. He has a window of opportunity to take it to the ground and submit Paul Daley. If he does take Daley to the ground, I do expect him to possibly finish him or just dominate him in every position. But if it stays standing, I do give the edge to Paul Daley, where he can utilize that devastating left hook. The leg kicks are powerful, the head kicks are powerful, he has a flying knee that's very hard to time. Just huge power with everything he throws, but that will also leave him exposed. Eric Silva still has a lot of power in his strikes, so it is a tough fight to call because it's so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen in this kind of fight. Eric Silva has different paths to go to in this fight, whereas Paul Daley's really going to do one thing. So my prediction for this fight, I am actually going to go with Eric Silva. If he plays it smart, doesn't wing punches and try to KO Paul Daley and fight his game, I expect Eric Silva to drive him for takedowns and try to submit Paul Daley. If that's not going to work, I think he's going to win by a decision. And then we go to the main event, Gegard Mousasi versus Rafael Lovato Jr. for the middleweight title. And these are the two best middleweights in that division, I believe. And Gegard is one of the best middleweights in the world, period. Now, Gegard obviously going to be the more well-rounded fighter. He does everything well, right? He has great boxing, great kicks, good knees, good clinch game. He has good takedowns, extremely good at positioning, amazing ground and pound, dangerous submissions. And as of late, he has been mixing up a lot better than he ever used to in his career. Before, he was well-rounded, but he would only show up with one style, a boxing style, and that's it. Then he get taken down like crazy and can't do anything. He'll show up as a grappler. Just take the guy to the ground, try to submit him ground and pound, but yet like no striking in the fight. It's weird how he used to come out, but now he's able to strike, make you pay for trying to take him down, take you down, ground and pound you, submit you. He could do it all now. And his jab is one of the best jabs in MMA history. It's very hard to see someone throw a better jab than Gegard Mousasi. And it's a flickering jab. It's not a powerful jab, but it's just there to constantly harass you, you know? Pop it out at you every single time you're at a distance, make you find another way through to get in on Gegard, and then he makes you pay through that by counter right hands, counter left hooks. He moves away from you, try to take him down, he's just gonna make you pay. He has great takedown defense now. And Lovato Jr. is much better with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's pretty much all he really has in this fight. When it comes to the striking, he's gonna get outstruck. When it comes to wrestling, he's going to get thwarted. If he can get this fight to the ground, that's where his chances skyrocket. But Gegard has had experience fighting Jacare Souza. Twice, actually. And he was able to survive for a long time with Jacare, eventually getting submitted in the rematch. But I do believe Jacare might be a better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a more dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner than Rafael Lovato Jr. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Gegard Mousasi. I think his striking's too much. Takedown defense is going to be too much. Even on the ground, he's going to be well-versed enough to survive and find his way back up. And I just believe it's going to be hard for Rafael Lovato Jr. to take down Gegard and impose his game plan. So I'm going to go with Gegard Mousasi. I'm going to go by a third-round TKO. I think it's just going to pretty much be a shutdown from Mousasi. And then let's go to the bare-knuckle boxing fight. Paulie Malignaggi versus Artem Lobov. Paulie's obviously going to have the experience in boxing. Way more technical, way more experience, way more knowledgeable in boxing. Paulie does everything pretty much better. Right? Better jab, better counters, better left hook, better right straight. He could probably switch stances better than Artem can. More aware with positioning, more aware of where to get hit and where not to get hit. He's made a career of fighting more powerful punchers and able to best them. I mean, he was always known for no knockout power, and he had to come up with ways of how to beat those more powerful punchers, which is especially going to give him an edge in this one. Because Artem, all he really has is power to hurt Paulie Malignaggi, but he has a way short of a reach, which is going to hurt him there too, and he gets off position way too much. Artem will switch stances and he throws power shots in either stance very well, and his way of making this fight more competitive is dogging it out. Getting in the clinch, which is something he's actually more experienced in, getting in the clinch, dirty boxing, all that stuff, and trying to find a punch through the guard of Paulie, because there is no gloves now. Paulie is used to blocking shots with those big gloves, and even instinctually, If he goes and blocks like it's boxing because he sees a punch coming and it goes right behind the hand, right behind the arm and catches him clean, that's all that will take for Lobov to win this fight. Because Lobov is more experienced with smaller gloves and finding openings behind guards and stuff like that. So that's what makes this fight a little bit more interesting. But my prediction for this fight, I'm still going to go with the skills. I'm still going to go with the technique. I'm going to go with Paulie Malignaggi. There are not 12 rounds. There's not 5 rounds like in MMA, so it's going to be harder for Artem to eventually find that opening. I think just Paulie's going to keep Artem at check. He's not going to risk anything. He's not going to try to knock out Artem and leave himself exposed. And he has experience fighting bigger punchers. So I'm going to go with Paulie. I'm going to go by a decision. I think he's going to win every single round. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. My next video is going to be a breakdown of one of the fights this weekend, so be lookout for that. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.